Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, from to us a son was born and a child was given.
I want to ask you a question. Have you got your book? Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priest Warrior King. I've read the book in its entirety, and I must say it's very inspirational, very informative, and very historical, right?
Them call him Ras Tafari when he was born, rainfall from the sky. Them call him Ras Tafari when he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Ras Tafari, lion break the chain, beat not, don't cry. Them call him Ras Tafari, read the Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration for Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England.
Yes. So you know, a lot of us were there, and that is where even I had come up with the idea before, started thinking about Rastafari Speaks, and it's there now. I said to share the idea with Miguel and others, right? And that is from there, it started to germinate a little bit more. And then by the end of 1980 is when we decided we launched Rastafari Speaks sometime around November 1980. We put out November for the coronation. Right after the coronation, we launched the Rastafari Speaks newspaper. I entitled it the Rastafari Speaks. And then people like Shango was my brethren, and Muntula Libala, who now deceased, and so on. We have Kimani Langa, my brethren who used to put out the Kambule magazine together, and so on. We put together all energy and efforts. Umawale, who is now deceased, a lot of brethren a lot of them deceased now, but a lot of us came together. I came up with the idea, and I said to everybody know how we're going to be financed. I said we got to get advertisement. We need to get advertisement. I said we need to. We have enough Rastafari ITEL shops and Rastafari businesses because Trinidad was flourishing at the time. Yes. So you had on every block you had a Rastafari business where there's a place you're going to go and get your.
What year are we talking about here?
We're talking about 79, 80.
79. Hold on, stick up in. I see a question here in the chat. And again, family, put your questions in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of them as we go along. Now we are going forward to the late 70s, early 80s. Rastafari Speaks. For any Rastafari person, especially at the beginning of the internet revolution, but prior to that, as a physical entity, Rastafari Speaks was a pillar in terms of just informing Rastafari throughout the world. It inspired myself to know that there was something greater than what I was seeing in Washington, D.C. At that time, we used to print out, the pages from the internet. I worked at the computer lab, so I used to print them and bring them to my gates. Was like a central gates, and we used to just go through all of these things. But talk to us about the beginnings of Rastafari Speak. You started already, but bring us through
I will jump to it, but
take us to Rastafari Speaks now. This is a pillar. Yes. Again, I am the Reading Ras family, so we're going to spend some time on this legendary publisher in the Rastafari community, the first to do many, many things. Educated, I am a product of his work, so he is actually looking at the fruits of his work, because 1977, when I was Rastafari and doing this revolutionary work, I was just being born, Ras Sekou, so just to give you some context, I'm a 1977 October 2nd, so just to give you some context about the fruits of your labor. It was never in vain because it produced youths like I and I. But continue with Rastafari Speaks.
Yes. So 1980, November 1980, we had different people came together, and I basically, as I said, in '79 we started in Grenada, started to talk about it because I saw the importance of being in Grenada. I saw the importance more of having a newspaper for Rastafari, brethren and
Yes.
sisters all over the world. I saw the need from in Trinidad prior, because at the time in the late latter 70s, what was taking place not only in Trinidad, but because I was sojourning there at the time more so, I saw whereby that when a robbery took place in Trinidad, they would always point it towards the Rasta man.
Okay.
So they always say a Rasta man, even though it might have been a man with a mop on the head,
Okay.
right? They would always say it's a Rasta man who committed robbery. And therefore this was a bad connotation on Rastafari, a bad stigma on Rastafari. So I now was always like conscious of what Marcus Garvey always talk about having created, not just talk about having. He created the Nation newspaper. He created the Black Man newspaper, etc., etc. So he saw the need for propaganda. Their Majesty, on the other hand, so right after coronation, created the Buhani press, right? He make sure and bought a press so he could develop reading materials about Ethiopia.
Control the narrative. We have to control the narrative.
There's a difference between the lion story and the hunter story,
Yes.
right? The hunter gonna say, here it is. I thought I was in the jungle or in the forest, and there it is, a barbaric animal came, a ferocious animal came upon me, and I had to kill it. The lion now will say, I was in my own habitat, walking around quietly, and here it is. This man came with a gun, and he trying to attack me, so I had to dispose of him, right? So it's two different stories altogether, because the lion is in his own space, in his own habitat. So the importance of having your own media, writing your own story, telling your own story is very important. It's a crucial thing within Rastafari, within the Black African nation. Because if you know, within the world of propaganda, it is the Jews who control the media. The Jews control whether it's the radio, whether it's television, whether it's recording, whether it's distribution. They control those aspects, the 5 Ps, the penal system, etc., philosophy, etc., right? So we know for a fact that we need to control our own, what comes out from us, our history. In the early days of Rastafari, who wrote about Rastafari? It wasn't us. It was the European, so-called, lecturers and doctors and so on, who was writing dread history, Owens and all those people.
Yeah.
So they was writing it. They was giving it putting it out there, but a lot of it was not totally true. What they were saying, because they were seeing it from their own lenses, not from I lenses. So Rastafari Speaks now was the idea of, we need to let people know that we're not the ones having robbing places. There were Rastafari people who were trained, producing music, doing great things within our community, whether it was Jamaica, whether it was Trinidad, whether it was Barbados, whether it was St. Croix, and so on, who was yearning to do good things, farming and so on. So the people who was using now Rastafari and some people were growing up and calling it, they were people who wanted to give the bad name, and the media, the Babylon media, used that to basically to create the propaganda that Rastafari people was a negative thing. Because as we know where Rastafari came from, it came from the unlettered, it came from the community, it came from the boroughs of the people in Jamaica, and the same thing took place and rooted within the communities in the Caribbean as well. It came from, So
ghetto and the rural people.
And the rural people, which is the peasant and working class people.
Yes.
So this is the reality. So by the time we decided to put out Ras Tafari Speaks, not that there were other papers, because they had people like Ras Historian and so on was putting out papers in Jamaica, and they had the communities in different parts in Ionola and other parts of the Caribbean. So on, people were putting out little newsletters and so on. But when we brought out Ras Tafari Speaks, because I believe in standard, I decided that we're going to put out the papers that are going to have a certain quality. And that is what we did. We put out the papers.
What I noticed. That's what I noticed about that publication. The quality was very high.
So we followed up before even other national newspapers in the country, commercial newspaper were doing color. Ras Tafari Speaks were doing color. And we decided, and we knew that one of the things, every edition, we made sure and had the Majesty on the front of the papers, because the Majesty is a pillar of Rastafari, right? So that was the essence. So when we brought out Rastafari Speaks, with the network, we follow a similar network of Marcus Garvey. When Marcus Garvey had a newspaper, people would smuggle seamen would smuggle newspaper under their clothes, tie it and so on, and they would bring it as far as Azania, South Africa, and all the different parts of Africa, all parts of the Caribbean, and so on. That's how the paper, Marcus Garvey newspaper, Black Man, and so on, came to people in the 40s, in the 30s, and so on. That's how they got to read the papers, because in most of these places, the papers was banned. So similarly, we were sending papers. Sometimes we lose some, but we were sending papers by the boat. We were sending papers by sea, and so on, by air, to different parts, to shipping by the post office and so on, to different parts of the Caribbean. That's how myself and Bongo Wisely and so on, and other brethren, Frankai, Pass, all of us became closer.
Honor to Ras Frankai, who's with our ancestors. What was the economics like of Ras Tafari Speaks? What is a profitable business? Or
it is a profitable business, but it had to take livication.
Yes,
it had to take livication, because you know, especially now and more so now, because you have a lot of not only Rastafari businesses were supportive of it. We got ads from the National Bank in Trinidad, National Commercial Bank in Trinidad. Later on, said I wanted to advertise it. What you call the Solid Waste Management, which was a corporation set up by the government. They were advertising it, and in addition to that, you had all the Rastafari brethren and sisters who had ITEL shops and cultural shops. They all wanted it. So if they didn't get into it, they were like, damn, I ain't getting into this issue, and so on. But they were the ones who were sponsoring it, buying ads. They were the ones who would sell it at their locations and so on, from Port of Spain all the way to San Fernando, and similarly across St. Croix, across Dominica, St. Lucia, Ionola, St. Kitts, Wadadli, all those places. Wadadli we call is the Taino name for Antigua and so on. And so so all those places, Barbados, when we couldn't find about the printed papers, Express and Guardian, we couldn't get the papers, printed papers in Trinidad. Chango and I jumped on the plane and we went to Barbados. We printed the papers at the Nation newspaper, and we set up in he and I were set up in Broad Street and sell the papers right there. And before and so on. So that was the essence of Rastafari Speaks.
What would you say was the height of Rastafari Speak? What years that was it at its peak?
I would say between 80 and 83.
1980 and 83. And at that time, were you able to hire employees, or was it a one-man operation?
What was happening? You had within Rastafari, so it was creating employment for Rastafari brethren.
Okay.
So Rastafari brethren and sisters would come and buy the papers. So let us say we were selling the papers for $1. Let us say $1 was the retail price. Somebody would come and buy the papers for wholesale 125 cents, 100 at 45 cents and go back and sell it back for the dollar.
Okay.
So you had that. Even when we put out the last editions we put out of Chicago here was a similar thing. You know, people like Nicholas and other people, they would buy the papers in bulk to distribute it, and then people from across New York and so on will come there and buy the papers wholesale so they could go back and sell it to their friends around the corner. And everybody would generate the money. So you had what they call a vying vendor community.
Wow.
And that, you with me?
You know, no, powerful. And I ask these questions because we're very big on business and economics on this channel. You know, a lot of people try to demonize business within the Rastafari livity, but we know that Haile Selassie was a businessman, Empress Menen was a businessman. So we want to return to our essence. Leonard Hall was a businessman. We want to return to the essence, you know, of creating an economic base for the movement so that we can manifest this Zion on earth that we chant about, this repatriation that we chant about. We want to see it manifest, and it's going to take dollars and cents. So we're really big on the economics, and there is an economic pioneer in the sense that you had a multinational newspaper that was going throughout the Caribbean from 1980 to 83. It was at its peak. What caused you to stop the printing of Rastafari Speaks?
We stopped with that period there, all right, there, and it was sometimes because within organizations you have pulling and tugging, and sometimes these are some of the things, that the factors that, you know, people sometimes can't see eye to eye on certain levels, and don't understand it when we don't understand economics and so on. But it was a factor that after a while people were moving on to different things and so on. But we always had a need for the papers. So later on, we brought back the papers. I think it was like in 2000, I brought it back along with Shango. Work with, you know, we brought it back. I think it was around 2002 or 2003. Brought it out of Chicago, and we started to do it again. And then because of some legal factors that was taking place, running into some legal obstacles here, so I kind of paused it. But now I think we're getting ready with a new team again to bring it out, and this time it will be on a more commercial level.
Okay.
And when it comes out, so we're putting together a team of people we met, and we looking to hammer out certain things, and then we're gonna, you know, within Rastafari, on a global level, we're gonna hit the streets again on Rastafari Speaks.
Beautiful.
As a new zine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shall lift up I eyes unto the hills from whence cometh I help. I help coming from the true living eyes, Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, who created Zion and earth. He shall not suffer I foot to be moved. I hold, he that keepeth Ethiopia shall neither slumber nor sleep. Well, youths in the streets right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The youths them rise against brutality, man a kill another man for your salary. Them train them at the shooting gallery, black and loot, you might lose all your family. Them defend white supremacy, so them see the African as them enemy. It's been like this for centuries, them sick mentally. That's why we have you out in the streets right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. Them said them tired of the looting, I and I tired of them shooting. Ku Klux Klan they recruiting. Then them dress up in a blue suit and they're brutalizing our youths them. No court, they just execute them. Till the people start learn the truth and the black youths go strap on them Gideon boot and them out in the streets right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The Most High denounce their philosophy. Talk to United Nations properly. He said we will fight if necessary, and be confident in the victory. They try to erase our history. They wanted to change our destiny, cause we are the children of the Almighty, destined to lead the whole world to harmony. Them out in the streets right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down.